Welcome to the Leedz Edutainment Podcast, featuring in-depth interviews with people in hip-hop culture, based out of New England. Leeds. So you don't use Zoom?
I mean, I use it here and there. I just if I start doing video calls, I feel like I don't get as much done. I have to I try to keep things on text, WhatsApp.
So there's proof. so there's
Yeah,
proof
that
that you
too.
can use later.
That too. Yeah, like emails,
Yeah, totally.
texts. Gotta have some proof.
Yeah, no, I feel that. This hip hop shit definitely needs some proof. With that note, I'd like to welcome everybody to the Leedz Edutainment Podcast. Very special guest today, businessman Dan Green, Clockwork Music. Good to see you, brother.
Good to see you as well.
We've known each other a while now.
Yeah, I want to say like 20 years, around there, probably, right?
Yeah. We both launched in. It seems like looking at your I didn't realize I was looking at your resume and stuff. You actually started kind of before me, but we both kind of kicked it into another gear. Actually, we started about the same time, actually, because you look like you got into the business around 2002, 2001.
Yeah, I would say. I mean, even early, I mean, this stuff's not even on there. I mean, when I was in college in Charleston, South Carolina, College of Charleston, and I started throwing hip hop shows there. And I met Governor Pete and Acrobatic because I brought down Acrobatic for a show, and then Governor Pete offered me to come work for him. So I ended up going back to Boston and working there a little bit before going to New York.
What did you study in? What you went to University of Charlestown? Is that what it was?
Yeah, College of Charleston. Yeah, I studied marketing, business, but I was into like hip hop. I was DJing, I was throwing shows, on a small level, whatever. But there wasn't much of a hip hop scene there when I got there, so that was cool.
And you're originally from Newton.
Yeah, right. Yeah, right down the street from Boston College. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, you're over there.
Yeah, well, Newton Center, so close by.
Yeah. My buddy, Sam Gerber.
Yeah,
my buddy.
I went to school with him. I know him my whole life.
Yeah. Good friend of mine. He lives over there now.
I think he sold me my first bag of swag.
And now he's in the cannabis business.
Yeah, right? That's crazy, right?
Yeah. So Detonator Records, a lot of people ask me about promoters and stuff like that and before me. And I always say Detonator Records because Governor Pete kind of paved the way. I worked for Metro Concepts. You worked for Detonator Records, which were two big promotions companies at the time.
Sure.
Talk to me about Detonator Records, more about them and what they did in the beginning.
I mean, they had with Acrobatic. When I was there, I wasn't there right at the beginning. I think I was there closer to the end when they did that the Detonator compilation.
Yep.
They had like Acrobatic, Breeze Everflowing, Sea Ray's Walls, Snacky Chan. They were putting out a lot of releases, and they were like competing with like Raucus and everybody else. But he's operating out of his apartment in Boston. You know what I mean? And he was throwing a lot of shows, a lot of the hip hop shows in Boston at that time. I think some of the first shows, right at the Middle East.
Yeah.
I think
Did he bring Eminem? He's the one who brought Eminem, didn't he?
Yeah, he brought everybody. Yeah, Eminem. Yep. Jedi Mind Tricks, Royce 5'9", a lot of people.
Yeah. Governor Pete. Do you talk to me more about him because he's kind of disappeared over the last couple of decades.
I heard he lives in Atlanta now. I mean, I haven't spoken to him in a long time, probably since 2002 or 3. I want to say.
Yeah.
But yeah, he was definitely putting on for Boston. He was doing a lot. I mean, through him, I made a lot of connections to Land Speed and Traffic. Just running around with him, with distributing his stuff independently. Like he was like 100% independent too. Fat Beats and Traffic, Land Speed at the time. Caroline Distribution. I think I actually helped. I helped him get a Caroline distribution deal like early on, like one of the first. I think it must have been 2002.
So what were you actually doing for him? Were you street teaming like me?
No, I was like, it was just me and him pretty much. I was like, I booked that was the first tour I booked actually, was the Detonator tour in 2002. We went all around the US. And I was helping him with everything. I mean, I got, hands-on with like every part of a record label at that time, cold calling radio stations and mailing out stuff and promo runs, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, because I mean, these things that you talk about, like mailing stuff out to radio stations and promo runs,
Yeah.
these things are kind of don't exist anymore,
Yeah,
correct?
that's like some dinosaur stuff.
Talk to me more about the dinosaur stuff because people don't really know about that.
Man, I mean, when I was working for Empire Management, they had Gangstar. That was around the time of Gangstar's last album. Like, I think was it, they were on Virgin Records,
Yep.
and they had like a DJ sampler, right? And like the label couldn't pay someone to like curry it over to like DJ enough, so I had to like go like walk over like 20 blocks or something and like hand it to him, and that got Gangstar stuff played. Like that's like a different, element that's not around anymore, obviously, because of the internet emailing MP3s. But that was like a cool thing. Like DJ Enough remembers me forever just from that. Like I've seen him in the street a couple times. I mean, I met him other times, but he remembers me from that, which is crazy.
You sent me that
Oh,
Gangstar sampler.
yeah, you gave me that Gangstar single first, you know? So that
Wow.
was pretty cool. That was definitely cool.
So your role was to try to get the music into the DJs and the radios, people's hands was a big part of it, I'm guessing.
Yeah, for sure. And then when I was and then was it that time? Yeah, well, I think it was around that time, like 2003, people were first emailing MP3s to DJs. So I was getting stuff to like a lot of the mixtape DJs. That's something I did a lot of when I was at Koch as well, getting music to like Big Mike or K Slay or whoever the hot mixtape DJ was at the time. Like that was the way you broke the records. You know what I mean? From the mixtapes.
Yeah, I mean, in the mixtapes, obviously got canned.
Yeah.
The DJ drama, but it's always a fine line between like they were just breaking artists, but it's copyright infringement. What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, that was part of the game. Like, like people they weren't stealing records. I mean, I don't want to say that because there was DJs that were stealing records. If you knew the right engineer in New York, let's say, you could pay him off some money. They got someone, some crazy exclusive sitting on, in the studio. That's where
Wow.
that's what a lot of this stuff came from. That's what DJs got abusive artists because they knew the right engineer to, hey, give here, I got $500, give me that unreleased 50 verse or whatever, and some people did that, but most of it is people you want to give the music to the DJs to get your music out to get more buzz.
Right.
I mean, that's all part of the game,
Do you
especially
do
that.
any of that? Do you do any of that now?
I mean, there's no mixtapes anymore, so no,
Right.
I
Or
mean,
what about DJ?
I'll
What about
email to,
DJs?
yeah, to DJ, sure. I'll email out like a dirty or in a clean version, try to get it on the radio or mix show. But it's not really mixtapes anymore.
How do you think that the radio and the mix shows are as important and crucial as they were?
I mean, mix show is still important. I don't want to say it's not important, but I say like serious is more important. I say online is really more important than anything because there's
You say,
artists.
yeah,
Yeah, there's artists that are huge off Spotify, YouTube. They don't have anything on the radio,
right,
and they sell records. They sell records. They sell out concerts just based on that. Nothing to do with spins.
right,
It's definitely less relevant than it was.
right. Um, he says also you interned for Violator Management.
Yeah, when I first moved to New York, I basically called like every record label I could think of, any music hip hop company I could think of, and I ended up working with the assistant for Chris Lighty. Um, that ended up actually really being like kind of interning for all the three main people there. I mean, well, two of the three main people there. It was Mona Scott, Chris Lighty, and Tom Moskowitz. So I ended up mostly dealing with Chris Lighty stuff, but also some stuff with Tom Moskowitz. But I was, I'd be working at a desk next to the assistant, and like 50 Cent would be doing 10 interviews, like literally sitting next to me, like right, like when Wanksta came out, or even before Wanksta, right at the beginning of G Unit. So I was around for that. That was kind of a cool time to be in New York. That's like
Did
when
you
I
ever meet? Go ahead. Sorry.
I mean that was a great time to be in New York. When 50 was like really starting to take over. Before he was even on the radio, just like killing in the streets with like the mixtapes.
Did you ever meet Chris Lighty?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I mean I
What?
worked for him.
Right. Well, you said you worked with his assistants.
Yeah,
This
no,
business can be crazy.
yeah, I was in the office with him. Yeah, of course. I mean, I met a lot of artists just being there. Missy was up there, Busta, CNN, Mobb Deep, 50, G Unit. Who else was up there? I think Freeway was signed there at the time. A lot of artists coming through there all the time. And I made a lot of good contacts being there. You know, John Monopoly was there at the time too, who ended up managing Kanye. So he was pushing Kanye's mixtapes there, like out of that office before Kanye was really known as an artist as well. You know, so there was a lot of stuff going on in Violator at the time.
What made, a lot of people, the death of Chris Lighty affected a lot of people, and they claimed that he was this great manager and great person. What was your experience working with him? What made him so great?
Yeah, he was really, really dedicated. He went really hard for his artists. He really fought for the artists, like, like maybe like no one I've seen,
How so?
Yeah, I just feel like he went the extra mile. I definitely saw he went the extra mile, and he went really hard, for the artists to get them the best deals possible.
Nice.
Yeah.
So you also, you talk about also working with Koch, and you did A&R work and marketing for Koch.
Yeah. I started off doing A&R. They had a sub label that called Fast Life that Bob Perry ran, who was also from Landspeed. He came over from Landspeed. He's smiling.
Well, I smile because I've met Bob Perry over at Cheapo Records. And coming into the business, Bob Perry was the scapegoat of every bad indie deal known to man. It was like, blame Bob Perry. So he had this stigma around him of this awful businessman, but he's still in business. I don't know how you could still be in business if you're an awful businessman.
Yeah, I mean, he's definitely a scapegoat. Unfortunately, sometimes people are scapegoats for situations. I mean, I can't speak for all the dealings from Landspeed. I wasn't there. I heard a lot. You know what I mean? I know he put money in a lot of people's pockets. I can say that. And I'm not saying he did everything by the book or the right way. A lot of it was like run and gun. You know what I mean?
Hip hop.
He put out some good records. He put out some successful records. He definitely helped. He definitely helped Koch climb up a little bit.
Let's talk about Koch, because like I said, you're A&R in there, but Koch became like the new Landspeed, basically.
Yeah, kind of,
because Bob Perry was over there. But yeah, talk about more. We kind of drifted with Bob Perry, but talk about more about your experience there.
I mean, there was so many albums coming out there. I mean, Cameron was putting out a bunch of records there. Diplomats, Jim Jones, Hellrell, DJ Khaled. I was there for DJ Khaled from the beginning. When he was first starting out, when he was just like this chubby DJ from Miami, and you know what I mean. And he had like mixtape covers, but he was just getting all these amazing features. So you had to pay attention. You couldn't like ignore what he was doing. AZ, I A&R 2 of his albums. AWOL in the format. AWOL was the one on Koch, actually. Fast Life / Koch. Who else was over there? Capone from CNN. I think there was a game album that was like previously released that we like re-released. I helped with that one as well. Little Brother. Man, they had a lot of big hits there. DJ Unk, Walk It Out. I was there for that. Young Berg and Ray J. They had a couple big records. Of course, Jim Jones, Ballin'. I'm trying to think who else. There's probably some I'm forgetting. They were putting out so many records, like 2004 to 2005, like literally like every week or two there was a new hip hop album coming out through Koch.
And they were in New York.
Yeah, in New York.
So basically, Landspeed moved to New York.
I mean, I don't think that's what it was.
No, the Landspeed turned into Traffic.
Yeah, it turned into Traffic, and I think some of the releases from Landspeed might have came over to Koch with Bob. I think that's what it was. And there was like a lot of stuff that never came out too that was signed there.
Well, we got to bring up one funny story. You knew I was going to do this, but the AZ experience, the AZ Boston show.
Oh, the first show, yeah.
First show we did, and one of my early shows working with you. I think it was the first show I ever booked with you, and we booked it, and basically almost had a sold out show. And AZ gets on stage and does 15 minutes.
I think it was like 20, but anyway, yeah.
So you never timing it?
Basically, yeah. So basically, that was my first time working with AZ on a show. I A&R'd his album, but I think we were in the middle of Was the album out yet? I don't think it was out yet. Even I don't think the album was out.
AWOL's out.
It was out.
Or at least the Primo single was out.
No, I think the singles were out. I don't think the album was out yet. So
okay,
I hadn't really done any shows with AZ at the time. Um, you know, and he kind of just like ran through his set. I think he was used to doing like club sets where he just like he doesn't talk to the crowd, just like boom, 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 boom. Like he did a bunch of records and it was like 20 minutes. And yeah, that was a bad situation. I thankfully haven't really been in too much since then.
really?
Yeah. Well, not when I was actually there, you know. But I won't say I've never been in those situations, but yeah, they do happen. Unfortunately, artists, you know, they won't be timing how long they're doing, or their DJ or whoever road manager won't be timing what they're doing, but they should have an idea of how long the set is, you know. But yeah, that sucked for sure because that was a great show, and then yeah, not ideal.
The craziness was you know, the Middle East has had a reputation of, you know, you do a 45 minutes, an hour set, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I understand the whole club appearance thing in 15, 20 minutes. I understand that. I didn't understand it really back then, but I understand it now. But to get up there and not do a full set is going to really disappoint the fans. And in the controversy that happens, and I'm not going to lie, I fueled some of it, but because I was pissed because I had people.
I think what's his name? G Squared was involved with that show, I think, right?
Yeah,
too.
yeah, me, G Squared, and you handled it the best you could, and we made it right. And AZ did eventually redeem himself and came back to Boston and did nice long shows.
Yeah, well, I think it was kind of like after that show, he hadn't really toured like as a hard ticket artist at that time.
Right.
That was kind of like his introduction, and I had to like explain to him, and I still have to explain to artists all the time, like, you know, especially I want to say this, especially U.S. art. I do a lot of booking in Europe, a lot of touring in Europe. So a lot of artists, you know, they're used to doing maybe like a 30-minute show or 25, 30-minute show here. And I'm like, man, that's not going to work in Europe. You got to do like an hour, or these guys are going to like rip you online, potentially throw things at the stage. You know, like you got to give them a full set. You know, it's not going to fly like this 15, 20-minute show is not going to fly there. You know what I mean?
Right. And it doesn't fly at the Middle East for the most part.
No, for sure. It doesn't fly at the Middle East either.
Well, nowadays, I don't know. You know, standards have dropped down a little bit in hip hop performances, but back then, for sure, no. And but like I said, you guys all made it right in the end. The funny thing is that controversy made it out of Boston. Like the whole AZ 15-minute set thing. I mean, I remember Cormega called me laughing about it on the phone.
Oh yeah, because Cormega had more experience with the live shows than AZ for sure. So he already knew what it was. Because I know Governor Pete booked him a few times. You know,
yeah, he was laughing. He's like, "Yo, AZ did only 15 minutes. Shit is hilarious." You know, because when I booked him, I had to have the conversations. Like, you got to do it, you know, an hour, and he already knew it. But it was pretty funny. It was just funny how that whole thing just kind of escalated so quickly.
Yeah.
With no social media.
But yeah, free social media too. Oh, wait,
it was all blog, all forums. It was forums back then.
MySpace, or that was like underground hip hop, right?
I think it was just mostly Boston rap forum.
Oh yeah, Boston rap. I remember that one. I remember that.
That's how I promoted my shows. Was like forums and flyers.
Yeah, it's a different time. I remember when I was doing shows in college. I don't even think we had pre-sale shows. It was all like door.
Wow.
There was no online tickets.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, back then, you know, the Middle East obviously did online tickets, but I have to call the box office to get a ticket count. You couldn't even get that thing email automated to you. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, people weren't using emails like that at that time.
Yeah.
Was there even like Blackberries?
Yeah.
Probably was.
yeah. Sidekicks were just coming out. Yeah. You also dabbled in some management.
Yeah, with a lot of Boston artists actually.
Right.
I mean, most of the time, Terminology. I managed him for, let's see how many years that was. I want to say 8 years. You know, definitely during like kind of like his rise up. You know, working with Premier and doing Watch Out Go Down and So Amazing and you know, the full album.
Yeah, you and I feel like you and Terminology's relationship was very. You guys were pretty. Really
I actually met him on the Detonator tour. He was on some of the dates, and he was still in high school. I was really impressed. Like, he was in high school going on tour. I was like, wow, okay, this guy really wants it. And I think I linked up with him again in 2003. I was working for Empire Management, and then I ended up leaving there and I got hired to do A&R for Crumb Snatcher for his album he was putting out. And then I think Term was around during that time. So I linked up with him again at that time, and then we started working together. I think first when he put out his first Hood Politics at that time.
His work ethic is pretty impressive, huh?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, he's still out there. And then I think
dropped another album. He just dropped another album.
Yeah, it was number one on iTunes too.
Really?
Number one on iTunes Hip Hop. Yeah.
Good for him.
And then I also worked with Static Selector for a bit, like around the same time. And then I also worked with Rex, I think, when he put out his Gray Hairs album. Big Sugar I did some work with as well, as far as Boston artists.
Talk to me about the management and what's involved in that for you, because it can mean a lot of different things for different people. Is it just you getting money for people, or are you overseeing other things?
Yeah, it's like overseeing, advising. I mean, honestly, with Term, it was kind of like we were like a two-man label, kind of. You know what I mean? That's kind of, even when he had different deals, it was still like we were kind of running everything. Yep. We weren't relying on the label necessarily. I mean, even when we had Nature Sounds, which was like a well-funded album, we still had to like control everything to really make it go right.
Right. I want to also talk about the A&R side, which is kind of a forgotten art form, or a business, or a job that's kind of been outed.
For sure.
What did you actually do in those scenarios as an A&R?
I mean, I was fielding beats from producers. I was in the studio with the artists, helping them pick beats, helping them figure out features, tell them to redo a verse or redo a hook, or, have someone else try something, to see what would work. I mean, a lot of time in the studio, like a lot of nights, overnight in the studio, and then going back to the office with 1 hour sleep, 2 hours of sleep, basically going home, taking a shower, and then going back to work. There was a lot of that, when I was at Koch, especially, because it was a lot of albums we were putting out. So it was a serious grind.
Yeah,
for sure. But it's a different time. People were handing off beat CDs. You weren't emailing beats, really. People had beat CDs there.
I still think I still have a few spindles of beat CDs in my house. For sure. Basement somewhere in a box. You also talk about working at Baby Grands.
Yeah, I did some consulting for them, some A&R and marketing work, like 2011, 2014. I mean, a lot of it was the A3C Festival compilation. So I was just like gathering whoever the hot new artists were and try to get them to submit a track for the festival compilation. And they had a bunch of other releases I helped work on over there as well.
Baby Grand was another big pioneer, like indie label distribution thing, led by who was it? Who owned it? The guy that did Soul Plane. What was his?
Chuck Wilson.
Talk to me about Baby Grand, because I feel like they put a big dent on the hip hop map for a while there.
Yeah, I mean, they still are. I mean, they have right now they've still got Koch signed. They have a few other projects, but yeah, but a lot of people don't know that. They think he signed to Griselda, but he signed to Baby Grand.
I saw that he did a song with Stoop from Jedi Mind Tricks, and I knew that Jedi Mind Tricks was basically the main bread and butter for Baby Grand there for a while.
At the beginning, yeah, it was like kind of like the beginning of Baby Grand. Right. But actually, they have Stoop signed right now. I think they're working on a lot of music with him. That's where those Stove God records came out of, him and Stoop.
I always say this, like Stoop, is kind of like not forgotten, but overlooked as one of the main reasons why Jedi Mind Tricks was so successful. Yes, Vinny Paz can rap really well, but Stoop's production and sound was 50% of the reason why that stuff was so successful. That music was so successful.
Yeah, the beats were amazing, of course.
And even the one he did, I just heard with Stove God, was incredible too. That beat was nasty.
Yeah, I mean, I think they have a bunch more records sitting around too.
It's great. I love that. But yeah, so they also, I think Baby Grand was doing a lot of the Wu-Tang-esque like side, not the main artist, but the what do you call it? I mean,
everybody was. That was a lot of the Koch releases too. It was all,
Wu-Tang affiliates.
Yeah, a lot of Dipset affiliates, Wu-Tang affiliates, D-Block affiliates, G-Unit, At that time, there was a lot of affiliate albums, for sure.
That's what we should call it, the affiliate era.
Yeah, exactly.
What else
But
did you?
that's a different time for record sales. So like anything Wu-Tang related, if it's marketed right and the music's good, you know, it's gonna sell. It's gonna do something.
But did it sell enough back then? I mean, it sold and there was more sales back then for physicals, but was it enough still back then? Because now
Uh,
we're talking mid 2000s,
it
late.
depends on the project and how much money they committed to it. You know, to be honest, I don't know. You know, depending on which one we're talking about. You know, I know. I think Baby Grand. Well, yeah, Baby Grand had J.R. Ryder. Yeah, J.R. Ryder was on Baby Grand, I think, and it did well. Like Hell Rel was on Koch. You know, like I know, like with Diplomats, they had their stuff all over the place. Like at a Cam, had deal with like Asylum, he had deal with Def Jam, he had deal with Koch, he had deal with Baby Grand. They, you know, they were putting out a lot of stuff. Purple City, that was also on Baby Grand, I think too.
That's Aguilar, right?
Agalon, Shice Bubs, yeah,
Crazy time.
yeah, very different time.
These bring back memories though. Great memories.
Yeah, for sure.
You also did the marketing consultant for Sony Red.
Yeah, that was like for a short period. Actually, Bob Perry had a situation over there with the RZA.
Oh,
Um, it was called Soul Temple. So he brought me on to do marketing for 2 albums they put out. They had a Ghostface album. I think that was part one on Tommy Boy. You know what I'm talking about? The Ghostface album. I
which
forget what.
one? He's put out another one. He's put out gazillion albums
Yeah,
too.
he put out 2 albums basically with like that Bob kind of like executive produced. One was on
Okay.
Tommy Boy, and then one was on Sony Red. Um, yeah, I did the marketing for that. I did the marketing for the Man with the Iron Fist. It was like a RZA produced album with like Pusha T and Wu Tang and a bunch of people on it.
Soundtrack.
Yeah, soundtrack. Yep.
Great soundtrack.
Yeah.
Let's talk about your own company,
Yeah, sure.
Clockwork Music. When did you make it official?
Um, since 2005, actually. Like, when I was in Koch, I kind of established it. I think around the time I started managing Term,
Okay.
and I was also managing this producer Moss, who worked with like Ghostface and Obi Trice, Slaughterhouse, a bunch of people,
Yeah, he's dope.
and yeah, a couple other people I worked with as well. But
What did Clockwork do? What was the point of Clockwork? What were the services in this one?
I was like artist management and touring. It's kind of been more. I want to say since pretty much since I had kids, it's been more about touring than management.
All
um,
right.
but yeah, a lot of overseas tours. You know, a couple U.S. tours here and there. In the last few years, I've gotten back into doing my own events. Since I moved to Florida, you know, done some different touring with like Griselda, Currency, Wu Tang, a couple different artists.
So
Actually,
primarily Clockwork is a booking agency at this point,
yeah,
you would
yeah,
say.
primarily it's a booking agency. It's also like concert production and promotion. Yeah, I'd say primarily that's what it is at the moment. Yeah.
Well, you've been doing that for a while now. How long? So now that's almost 20 years.
Yeah. I mean, I want to say I've been doing European touring. I want to say 16 or 17 years, or maybe 17 years. I want to say 2007.
Now we've talked about the good things. Let's talk about some of the headaches. What can go wrong in these scenarios?
Man.
And what what has gone wrong?
What has gone wrong?
What
I
has
mean,
gone
I'll
wrong?
just give you a list of some artists I've worked with, and you'll know. I mean, you know, like DMX,
Yeah.
R.I.P. DMX. You know, he had some issues with shows. I did a lot of shows with DMX, where I was the booking agent. I think one time, I think in DC once, he ended up checking himself into uh, what's it called? Like AA. I think he went into AA or something. Like he was supposed to do the show. And like,
Detox.
yeah,
Detox.
he went into detox, and like they told us like when like an hour before the doors were opening. Yeah. I mean,
I don't
that's
mean to
one.
laugh. It's sad at the end, but it's just like
Yeah,
it's the crazy. You have to laugh at the craziness because that's happens in this business.
yeah. I mean, there's times when you know promoter will not have your second half of your fee. Artists will sometimes you know the artist will perform and not have their full fee, and then they have to chase the promoter for their money. You know, thankfully that really hasn't happened with me, but you know that definitely happens. You know, I want to say more the things you have to deal with sometimes is like a manager or someone posing as a manager, like taking a deposit. Like you should always know who you're dealing with. Make sure it's like legit. I think it's easier to figure that out nowadays than it was probably pre, social media. Um, and then artists missing shows. That's a big thing to deal with. Artists not showing up or disappearing. A lot of things can
Yeah,
go.
we won't name names, but we've talked about this of like
Yeah,
artists like not showing up to an international European show, and then you getting sued for it because they didn't show up,
yeah,
or they took the deposit and didn't return it. Like these things happen, right? Like
yeah. Well, not just Europe, but yeah, it happens everywhere.
yeah, not just Europe.
Yeah,
Okay, apparently it happens in the States.
I did have one situation with a pretty known artist who I worked with early on in his career,
Yeah.
uh, where he kind of left midway in the tour. You could probably find it in Google if you Google it. Anyway, I can't legally speak on it. Okay,
Fine.
as
Fair
far as
enough.
yeah, I mean, but that happens. I think that happened with one artist with you one time too. I think there was another
Yep.
group.
Yep. There was
You don't want to name any names, right?
we won't name names, but
Yeah,
you were stand up with your business. You took care of it.
yeah, for
And I
sure.
have to say, there's a lot of people in this music business that wouldn't have done that. And I got
Yeah,
to give you props for that because I've dealt with people like that that have just been shady and
yeah,
booking agents that just took off and disappeared when shit hit the fan. And you didn't do
yeah.
that. So, and that's speaks a lot about your business.
Yeah, for sure. Well, that's one reason why I think I've had longevity. I'm not with the CAA or William Morris or whatever, but artists know, I'm going to be hands on, with their touring, with their business. I'm not just going to like take my commission and disappear because that's what a lot of these agencies do. They'll
Right.
just take their money and see you later. You can't
Right.
reach them. Um, but yeah, and like I mean, we did a lot of business, so I wasn't just going to like let you take the L on that one.
I appreciate that.
Yeah,
We got Stove God. We got the Stove God Cooks show
yeah.
coming up on May 11th. How'd you end up working with this guy? It seems like you're pushing him pretty hard. This is one
Yeah,
of
I
your
mean,
clients.
I want to say I met him with West Side Gun in 2021. I did probably one of my most successful shows in the past few years. I did he's calling it Gun Basel. I did a West Side Gun concert during Art Basel. I think it was like less than 2 weeks promotion time. We had like 600 people and it was like some pop up. It was in somebody's yard, like a big backyard, and set up a concert there. It turned out really well. But Stove God was there, so I ended up talking to him. I was already a fan of his music. When he came out, it seemed like he had like it just dropped. Like I only really knew about it because I knew Rock Marcy's people. That's the only reason I even knew about this guy. But I thought the music was like incredible. Um, so yeah, I've been working closely with him and with Baby Grand because they have him signed to do his touring. So we just did the Whiskey in LA. We sold it out, and we did San Diego. We sold that one out as well. And then we just did. I just added him on with Currency for 3 Texas shows last week. We did
Dope.
Austin, Houston, and Dallas, and then we're going to Montreal and Toronto this week, and next week we got New York, Hartford, and Boston.
You said you moved to Florida,
Yeah, yep,
and you've done shows in Florida.
yeah, in Miami, Fort Lauderdale, Orlando. Yep.
Yeah, so you've been to you're from Boston area, and you've done shows up. What's the difference? What are the big differences you notice between Boston shows and Florida shows? How's it different?
I mean, I want to say Boston has more of like a built-in fan base there. Maybe it's easier to promote. I wouldn't say it's easier to promote in the area. Might be a little
Really?
hard here, I want to say, but I
And
mean, it's
what
hard
works
to
in
promote everywhere.
Yeah, I mean, you're booking like kind of like booking Griselda and like East Coast heavy acts in
Yeah,
Florida, which is more known for the Southern style, must be a bit of a challenge.
yeah, it is. But there is a fan base for them. I want to say Orlando actually, surprisingly, Orlando. All the shows I did in Orlando was a pretty good turnout. They definitely have a good fan base there. Miami, Fort Lauderdale, maybe a little bit harder, but they have shows here too. You know, so there is definitely a fan base for it here.
Why'd you move down there?
Man, a lot of reasons. Quality of life, taxes. weather.
So money. So money.
Not just money. Not just money. You know, I mean, more quality of life than anything, honestly. You know, I just didn't want to deal with the winter anymore. I was ready to get out of New York. Pre-COVID, I was considering like Long Island or Jersey. I was looking at houses over there, but you know, I think we went on a trip to Florida, and it was like everything was matching up. Like it's time to get out of New York to move here. Like you know, so it was like a lot of signs, and it was
Good.
like it's time to get out. So yeah, like so I've been out here 3 years.
So now, are you full-time Clockwork? Is that what you do?
Yeah,
Is that all you do?
yeah, full time.
Oh, that's good. That's great. And you
Yeah,
survived COVID,
yeah, yeah. I survived COVID. COVID was very tough. You know, it's pretty much no business for like a year.
right?
So I think I did some like live stream shows at the time. But you know, I was struggling like everybody else in the music business at the time.
Right.
You know,
So
thankfully
what's
touring is back
sorry.
now.
Yeah. And so what's next? What do you have any plans for what how you projections?
I mean, I'm doing a lot more touring with Stove God. More stuff in the works with like Jizza. Probably do some more stuff with Currency. Um, you know, a bunch of random different tours I'm doing in Europe. Probably some more stuff in the States, and yeah, that's really about it. I mean, I might look into doing some more distro for some more albums. I released a couple albums too. I put out an Obi Trice album, the Moss produced, and I also put out a Cool G Rap album a few years ago that Moss produced. That one did pretty well. So maybe I'll put out some more albums as well.
Good stuff, brother.
Yeah.
Well, I know you're a busy man, so I will let you go. But I appreciate you making time. Like I said, we got the show on May 11th. Middle East downstairs. Stove God. Let's list the other act. Al Davino, Feed the Fam.
Yeah, Al
Hosted by Sam
Davino.
Buck. Who else?
Yeah, Feed the
What's the one with the
Family.
Y?
Brody Fresh, the Utes,
The Youth.
Evo the Genius, and Sam Buck is hosting it.
All right. Well, there you
Yeah,
have it.
it'd be a cool show.
Always good talking to you, brother. I appreciate your time.
For sure. Thanks.
And on that note, I'd like to thank everybody for tuning into the Leedz Entertainment Podcast. Very special guest, Dan Green and Clockwork Music. We'll talk soon, brother.
All right. Thanks.
Later.